And thanks for joining us, everyone. My name is Zach Allison with ATS, and thanks you once again for joining our ATS University sessions. These are our sometimes ASPE accredited, sometimes AIA accredited, sometimes just general certificate of attendance for your reporting hours, but different variety of presentations we do to try to make sure everyone stays informed on the various products that are available on the ATS spec tool. If this is your first time joining us, thanks for taking a chance. I imagine you might be wondering what you're walking into. If you are unfamiliar with our ATS spec tool, it is a product selection, product configuration tool that's free for designers to make accurate product selections. We do everything we can to try to make understanding the product that you're selecting as easy as possible. And most importantly, we try to make configuring and getting the exact selection as easy as possible. We're going to do that by having great relationships directly with our manufacturers. That's why it's free for all the designers on the call. Our lovely manufacturers support our tool so that we can provide as accurate product information to the market as possible. One of the other ways that we try to provide value to the engineers and architects and designers and contractors that are using that ATS spec tool is by providing these ATS University sessions. So we provide in-depth product training on a particular product, or we might provide a generic application overview, or we might provide building code or regulation review. We've done things like understanding the lead-free codes in the past, understanding like backflow regulations and which backflows to select for different codes, and right down to barrier-free code and pipe sizing and pump sizing, everything like that in between. So wide variety of products. At the end of the session today, I'll show you how you can find any of those previously recorded sessions if you want to go back and learn about anything else. We'll also have our certificate of attendance out tomorrow. That'll be sent to everyone that joins us for the presentation today. And this is not an ASPE accredited. We're going to talk about specific product today. That way we can really get into the nitty gritty of what makes stainless steel worthwhile, how it fits into specific applications. There's a lot of nuances there. So instead of being generic, sometimes it's nice to get into the details of a product. So with that all being said, my partner today is Michael O'Brien. He's the Canadian sales manager for the BLÜCHER stainless steel drainage systems. These come into a lot of different applications when we get into kind of specialty industrial, whether it be the data center or pharma push that's been going on for years, or getting into healthcare applications. We've done these beyond the drainage systems into the stainless steel pipe in a wide variety of applications, just because stainless steel pipe can be such an installation time savings. So we're going to dive into the details of all that as we go through this presentation today. I'm going to be mainly taking an eye on the chat, and I'll raise up questions as we go to Michael as we get through different sections. So if you have any questions along the way, please plot them into the chat or the Q&A field. And of course, this is being recorded, and I'll show you how you can find it later on. So with that all being said, thanks for joining us again, Michael.
Thank you, Zach. Glad to be here. I'm a real stainless steel drainage nerd. I eat, live, sleep, dream about it in the middle of the night. So any opportunity I get to share knowledge with people, I really enjoy it. So thanks again for the opportunity. Thanks to everybody online for taking some time out. I could go till 3:00, but I know that some of you probably need to do some things before whatever it is else that's going on in the GTA area today. So, we'll keep it concise. We'll talk about the reasons why stainless steel is used in certain applications, and how it is less expensive than you may think when used in a drainage system. So I guess without further ado, we'll see if my slideshow works. BLÜCHER is part of the Watts brand of companies. There's a few more that have been added in the time that I last updated this file. So But BLÜCHER really is just stainless steel drainage products. So they were founded in Denmark in 1965 by a plumber who wanted a shower drain for a project he was working on, and it wasn't available in the market. So he fabricated one in his garage. Was really quite proud of it. Installed it. The customer liked it. So he started showing it around to other local plumbers and started to get some orders for it. And over the years, that turned into a large, well over 200,000 square foot production warehouse in the Jutland part of Denmark. And it is a worldwide company. There are channels to buy BLÜCHER virtually in every corner of the world. So North America, all of Europe, Russia, Asia, Africa, Middle East, South America, everywhere there's a place. So if you're working on a job in a that's in a different country and the product's going to be bought in a different country, you can feel pretty confident that they'll be able to find a source for BLÜCHER. The product line is made up of drains, which are, like the square or round type of area drain. What BLÜCHER calls channels, sometimes referred to as a trench drain or a channel drain, and then of course the BLÜCHER pipe and fittings, which we'll spend a fair amount of time on because there's a real value statement for those that people make the wrong assumption that it's stainless steel is too expensive for a drainage system. So all the certifications, FDA, HACCP, HACCP, IAPMO, NSF, ASME. If there's another standard that's coming out, quite often we would be involved with it for doing some of the testing and some of the guidance. I know there's been interest in a CSA type of certification, and they have one for residential type drainage products, but they currently don't have one with, or they're very close to releasing it in conjunction with NSF, a standard that would cover other types of drainage. So our NSF certification for our drainage products meets the requirements of food production facilities for meat and chicken processing. So it's a very clean product, easy to clean product, which we'll get into in a little bit and why that's important. As I mentioned earlier, an international presence, offices in all these countries, access through to virtually all of the countries in the world. And surprisingly, that was even before Watts purchased them in 2008. So this little Danish company really had quite a reach. In fact, I was in Vancouver a few years back, and I was taken to tour the Gate Gourmet facility near the airport that does all the meals for airlines. And when I got introduced, the facility manager was so excited that the BLÜCHER guy was there. We were walking through the plant, and every time he saw one of his managers, look, the BLÜCHER guy is here. The BLÜCHER guy is here. So I guess coming from the Middle East, he must have had a really good experience with our Middle Eastern sales manager. So I thought that was quite comical. Anyways, typical applications in North America, in Canada, are commercial, like offices, hotels, hospitals, supermarkets, fitness centers, airports. Industrial, food and beverage, food processing, pharmaceutical are all really big markets for us. And the marine market. So cruise liners, cargo ships, warships, icebreakers, Coast Guard ships. And the reason they like stainless steel in those applications is that it doesn't burn. So if there's a fire in the engine room, it won't set the drainage pipe on fire and have it transferred to other parts of the ship. It's also in 316. It's quite resistant to the sea air, which is important. And in the case of the BLÜCHER products, they're very lightweight, so and quick and easy to install. So all things that are important in shipbuilding and can be important in other industries. One that's missing there that is prevalent in Europe is the residential market. If you're building a house in Europe, quite often your mortgage is a literal. The word mortgage is made up of the French words for death and debt. People in Europe oftentimes will never pay off the house, so they want it to last for centuries and not just decades. So they do use stainless steel drainage pipe in residential, and the other reason they do that is in these older cities there is issues with rats in most of them, and the rats can't chew through stainless steel. They can chew through plastics. They can find holes where cast iron has rusted out, and certainly where if clay pipe is used leading up to servicing the building, then that again gives them an access through the cracked clay pipes. So breaking down the product lines, BLÜCHER pipe, it's drainage pipe and a full line of fittings designed specifically for that, for gravity, for vacuum. But it's not meant to be a pressure pipe, so it's not a process pipe. Strictly for drainage. The fitting patterns are drainage related as opposed to process. So BLÜCHER drain again was the spot drains or area drains. We have them from light to heavy duty, special duty, all different types of floors, regardless of whether it's just a polished concrete floor or if it's a tile floor. Any one of the special coatings, epoxy or urethane, we have a drain model that will tie into that floor properly. BLÜCHER channel, again, that's anything that's rectilinear. So a trench drain is typically what people think of, but it also could be a much wider and shorter rectangle, what we would call a kitchen channel that you might see in front of a pot in a commercial kitchen, a big pot. So, and then the last one is the Hygienic Pro, which was a line of drainage designed specifically for the food and beverage facilities, and based on the feedback we got from those people as to where their pain points were with drainage. So I'll touch on a little bit of that in a couple of minutes. So stainless steel is very important for hygiene focused facilities. When you look at their equipment, it's their processing equipment. It's all stainless steel. It needs to be cleanable and very easily cleaned and hygienic. Drains and floors are really the most important part where there's anywhere where hygiene is important. So think about it. All the waste ends up on the floor. It sees cool temperatures when it's during production times or other times, and then they go through a very high temperature cleaning and sanitation program, or they'll have high temperature discharge from tanks or from boilers, etc. And many are concerned with listeria or microbiological contamination. So listeria is a big one. You may remember in the earlier in the 2000s, maybe 20 years ago, Maple Leaf Foods had a massive recall for listeria, and it's always present in a meat facility. The challenge is to keep it off of your finished product, especially if it's as in the case with Maple Leaf, this was luncheon meats. So things that were prepared, already cooked and sliced and packaged, and they were going to be eaten as is when they were removed from the package. So there's no chance to to deal with any of that microbiological contamination. Um, they at that time they stopped production. They tore every piece of equipment down and sanitized everything, rebuilt it back up again, and at the end of the day, took a hose and washed all that cleaning fluid and all the dirt over to the drains, and with the idea that it was going to go down the drain. Um, what actually happened is that because these were older facilities and did not have stainless steel drainage, the dissimilar materials in the floor expanded and contracted at different rates, and there was separation of the trench drains from the concrete floor and the flooring material. There were cracks radiating out from the corner, so all of the all of the food particles have found a way to get into those separations of the floor or those cracks in the floor. Were harboring bacteria growth, and so when they came across with this pressurized water, they would break that up and create an aerosol that would settle back down on all the surfaces that just spent 2 or 3 days cleaning. So in the end, they had to they just raised those two buildings that were affected and built brand new from the ground up. So uh, that was devastating for Maple Leaf Foods, which is probably the biggest, if not one of the biggest, if not the biggest in Canada. So you can imagine what a smaller food processor would go through. They took every single Maple Leaf product off the shelf in Canada. They stopped production, so they weren't selling anything for a while till they finally got it solved. Many people were hospitalized with illness. I think there were a few deaths, and that's a major issue for the owner of these companies if they have that type of thing. Maple Leaf handled it beautifully. They the CEO took full responsibility, covered people's costs. The families that lost loved ones were compensated. They made sure that they got to the point where it would never happen again. And actually, with the North American Meat Institute, have created a ongoing program for people to learn how to control listeria in their own facilities. So it's become a bit of a business case. But if you have anybody with a hygiene focused facility, those are the types of things that are keeping them up at night. What's going to happen? Did we clean it properly? Is it is that floor going to crack? And so a lot of those issues are tied to the type of drain that was supplied. So 5 key factors to controlling bacteria in a food facility is hygienic design of the facility. So you have to be able to clean everything, all the equipment. You won't see stuff coming down to the ground that you can't get under and clean underneath the equipment. Traffic patterns. So you want to make sure that you don't have raw materials traveling in or around areas that have finished materials. And one of those is also the traffic pattern of the drain. Often you would see in the past one long trench drain that goes from the beginning of the line to the end of the line. So there's raw material entering that trench drain and passing through all the stages, and then eventually past the finished product and packaging and into a giant tank or some sort of water treatment system, whether it's a pH balancing tank or a full blown facility. But you can imagine that the stuff traveling through that long continuous channel could be an issue with your finished product. So good manufacturing practices are important. Having a good sanitation program where you're cleaning the facility, cleaning the drains on a regular basis, and then clean, dry, uncracked floors. And a lot of that has to do with the drainage. You want, obviously, whatever hits the floor, you want it to find a drain and get in the drain and get past a P-trap. You want the floors to be dry because wet floors are a safety hazard, and you want them to be cracked or uncracked. Sorry, you want them to be monolithic. So you want the whole thing to be like a sealed, almost bathtub up the walls. A little bit so that you have nowhere for water to penetrate, other than to go down a drain. And there are ways to help that in the design of a product. So, common drainage materials: PVC, CPVC, cast iron. Available, readily available, and then stainless steel in food and beverage and commercial kitchen. You look at these two pictures. All of the equipment is stainless steel for very good reason. There's no plastic countertops. There's no there's no wood there. There's no cast iron that has rough surfaces. Everything is smooth. I mentioned earlier the kitchen channel. You see that's one there on the right. So it's similar to a trench drain, but not typically what you would think of because it's a little bit wider. So. So there's some limitations with the other materials. PVC is not supposed to be exposed to temperatures above 140. A common temperature for cleaning in a hygienic facility is up around 180 degrees Fahrenheit. It's been a while since I calculated it back to Celsius, but 180 is somewhere around 90 Celsius. What happens with PVC above those temperatures is it starts to get soft. So if you're using a rotting tool, you can, and it's been exposed to these high temperatures, you can start piercing through the bends and the turns, trying to clear an obstruction. There's a great deal of thermal expansion. So it expands quite a bit when exposed to those higher temperatures. So that leads to various issues. If it's a plastic channeled trench drain, and you're dumping some hot water through it, that PVC is going to want to move. If it's installed in concrete, it won't be able to move out, so it will start to kind of collapse in on itself a little bit. But then once it returns back to temperature, it won't find its original dimension, and therefore you have a spot for water to bypass the drain and get down underneath the floor, where it may or may not cause any problems, but likely it is. Likely it will be a harborage spot for bacteria, and could be over time undermining the foundation of the building. So PVC is also flammable. Its lifetime is reduced by half for every 50 degree Fahrenheit increase in temperature. So if it sees 140 degrees, you've cut the lifetime of the PVC material in half. If you go, if you're up around 170, 180, it's half again. So it's a significant difference in the lifetime. And it starts to soften at 33% of its melting temperature. So it doesn't take that much hot water to start the softening effect. So some people would say, well, CPVC is the way to go because it can handle those high temperatures, and yes, it can. The problem is that it's not really compatible with regular detergents and or surfactants and food proteins. The actual material to make the CPVC products, on the MSDS sheet, it says should not be used to connect a dishwasher drain to the sanitary drain due to incompatibility with food oils and surfactants in the dishwasher or wastewater. So when installed in kitchen areas, the pipe must be protected from contact with grease or cooking oil. So it's yes, it can handle the temperatures, but again, if you have a cleaning process and you have proteins and food oils, you're starting to destroy your drainage material. For cast iron, which is quite common, it's subject to corrosion, and when it comes out of the factory and sits in the yard, it's starting to corrode, and then it goes to a wholesaler somewhere, sits in their yard, and continues corroding. And then it gets to site, waiting to be buried. It's still corroding, so it starts almost right away. It's fairly rough surface, so if there's any bacteria in the water, it will cling to those rough surfaces and start to form what's called a biofilm to protect itself. So, but if we take regular steel and add some chromium and nickel to it, we can 12 to 13%. We can get a fairly corrosion resistant and chemical resistant material known as stainless steel. So cast iron has some limitations when high temperatures are present. They can resist up to 203 Fahrenheit, so just shy of 100 Celsius for short periods. And but that doesn't really apply so much to the epoxy coated. It does give a nice smooth surface to it on the inside, but the epoxy and the cast iron expand and contract, have different thermal expansion rates, and so they expand and contract at different rates, and you'll start to see it coming off of the surface of the cast iron. So a chart here showing the continual use temperature for different materials. CPVC can take the continual use, but not the proteins. PVC is quite low. The picture on the right is in a brewery where they have high temperature discharge into the PVC drainage system, and the fittings are starting to collapse and restrict flow. Breweries go through a lot of water. Somewhere between 6 and 10 liters of water for every 1 liter of beer that's produced, depending on their processes and how careful they are with their cleaning. So restricting the flow in the drainage system is not a good idea. You have SMC at 100 Celsius, polymer concrete down around the PVC level. Then you get into stainless at 212. Stainless is actually much higher. I show it here as 212 because our standard sealing gasket on our drains and pipe and fittings is EPDM, and it's rated for 212. We do have options to go higher, but I'll just keep things fair with everybody else. And then PVDF can get you to a higher temperature, but at a different price point. So. And this is the expansion and contraction rates of different materials. There's a lot of expansion and contraction in that PVDF, CPVC, PVC, and then you see 316 and 304 stainless steel are quite low and similar to the concrete level. So the picture on the right is what happens with thermal expansion and contraction. This trench drain here is starting to separate from the concrete floor surrounding it, and the material that was there. So water's getting in between the wall of the trench and the concrete floor. The concrete is like a sponge; it's soaking up the water, and that's causing the flooring material to flake off. So. Doesn't look good. It's not great for hygiene or for keeping things clean, and it's an expensive part of the facility that's starting to fail. So the answer, surprise, stainless steel, also called corrosion resistant steel somewhere. I've never heard that before, but has a high degree of passivity, so will not rust in ordinary air and water. Not quite. What happens is it oxidizes. So rust is iron oxide. When you add chromium to steel to create stainless steel, the oxidization becomes chromium oxide, and that's what gives it that corrosion resistance and the stainless steel resistance. Unlike galvanizing, because the chromium is internal, if that surface gets scratched at some point, it will reoxidize and seal itself. Whereas with galvanized, that piece needs to be re-dipped. There's no self-healing at all for it. So product range, I mentioned we have industrial range, floor and area drains, floor cleanouts. These two in the middle at the top, we sell hundreds and hundreds of them every year in Alberta. Every single school that gets built has 30 or 40 of these in the gymnasiums, the washrooms, the change rooms. Again, it's stainless steel surface versus a cast iron or a brass. It's a lot easier to keep clean. It's more hygienic. So one that we see a lot of. We do heavy duty floor drains for industrial applications for all different types of floors. Whether it's just polished concrete, if it's tile, if it's an epoxy or a urethane, if it's above grade and you need to have a surface membrane or a subsurface membrane underneath, then this one here on the left at the bottom has a clamping ring around it so that you clamp that down onto that subsurface membrane, and any water that gets onto that through a crack in mortar, for instance, in a tile floor or anywhere else, will eventually make its way towards the drain and then just weep through the holes here down into the P trap and out. So if you have an above grade application, quite often that's what you want to be specifying. I like to show some of my favorites. That one I just mentioned with the membrane clamp. There's a hub drain if you have a piece of equipment that's discharging large amounts of water and you just want it to go down the drain and not necessarily all over the floor. You position one of these. They sit above the grade of the floor and take that discharge and move it along. And then the one on the left is part of the Hygienic Pro family, and it's just a very well built, very well designed, very clean drain that looks beautiful when it's installed. I may be a little biased on that, but I think it looks good, and all our competitors think it looks good too. So we have a few new product lines with anti-ligature. If you're getting into facilities where, hospitals, healthcare centers, prisons, police station holding cells. So both an area drain and a shower channel. So there's an option there for those types of applications. We have a heavy duty version of the Hygienic Pro drain I showed you earlier, and a heavy duty P-trap to go with it. That's if you have somebody who really likes to jam a rod down the drain to clear out a clog, then you can whale away on that for all he wants. BLÜCHER channel, that's linear drainage kitchen channels. Again, for any floor construction, we have standard sizes, customized range of gratings for all applications. A mesh grating for a kitchen application, right up to some super duty fully welded ladder type grates. All of them are easy to clean and come in standard sizes. The channel itself can be made to order either in 316 or 304. They're all pre-sloped by design with longitudinal and crossfall. However, we could also do a non-sloped if you have an application where you don't have the depth to slope it all the way down, then we can customize that slope or eliminate it all completely. We have standard width sizes because of the grading at 3 inches, 6 inches, 12, 18, 20, 24, 28, and 32. So pretty much anything you can think of, we can handle it. So, and with different ways to integrate with the floor. This gives you a tile edge to butt tiles up to. The one on the right is for a liquid surface membrane, so this drain would get installed, and then a liquid would be rolled over top before placing a tile, or they could use that with an epoxy or a urethane. We have it for sheet flooring, where you like vinyl type flooring on the surface. I see a lot of that in healthcare facilities now, where they're using a sheet flooring. So this provides the clamp to clamp it down so that um, the water finds its way into the channel and down through the piping system, as opposed to underneath the floor. And then this one on the right is for a subsurface membrane for trench drains. We have a customer based in New York State that is a high-end grocery store. They go um, into downtown areas and will take a historic building and turn it into a multi-floor grocery store. And they need to keep wastewater from one floor from penetrating down to the second floor. So that they'll have a subsurface sheet membrane on the floor above that then clamps into the clamp that goes all the way around this trench drain, and there are weeping holes here to weep the water down into the drain and through the pipe system. And then the Hygienic Pro channel. Again, this is a little over 10 years old now, all from Voice of Customer. They talked to us about having a good sized basket so that they weren't constantly having to stop production to empty it, and or forcing people to just leave it out. So production downtime is reduced. The basket and the outlet is available in 3 different depths. This particular basket could be half full of material and not have any flow restriction through the drain whatsoever. So next is easy and efficient floor cleaning. So we designed a grate that is cast stainless steel. Because it's cast, we don't need to build a frame to weld bars across on it. We can have a spine and just have fingers reaching out to the edges. So as solids are coming across the floor with water, there's nothing preventing them from getting down into the channel. A few slides back, we saw that brewery where the epoxy floor was starting to flake off. And so we know that that's an issue. It's an expensive process to have the floors redone every couple of years. And so we looked at ways that we could keep that from happening. One of them was the secure and durable bonding to the floor. And you can see all the way along the trench drain on both sides are these anchor tabs. They have a flat surface where they can use some rod to position and level the channel and hold it in place for the concrete pour. And then these tabs fold down in opposing directions. They run the full length, and they're integral. They're not welded on. They're actually formed as part of the channel when that piece of metal is stamped. They're formed as part of it. And you can imagine when the concrete has set that now there is no way to go. This is like the roots of a tree. They hold that drain in position in that floor and make it becomes part of the floor. The competition and even us on our standard line would tack weld on an anchor tab. We do it every meter. The American brands would do it every 4 to 5 feet. But I have seen those brands trench drains pop out of the floor because the forces that were acting on the were greater than the strength of the weld, and in a food facility that's devastating. We also designed a construction cover, and it's this blue plastic piece. When this arrives on site, there's a similar piece that covers the outlet box, and it runs the full length, and there's a cap at the end. And that keeps it nice and clean. There's plywood within the channel, again keeping it clean, so it saves the installer the time of going and buying boards to cover the drain. But this also creates, as you can see, once the concrete is poured to this level, it makes sure that the floor level is higher than the surface of the drain. Very important for getting water to go down it. But it also creates this, forms this little keyway or chase that would go all the way around the outlet box and provides us an area for sealing the flooring material to the surface of the drain. So that's about a 10 millimeter wide by 11 millimeter surface that can be filled with a suitable caulking material or the flooring material, whether that's the epoxy or the urethane. And then when you get some expansion and contraction, some traffic going over that drain, that absorbs any of those forces and allows it to stay adhered and therefore sealed off. Next thing is the flow on this particular channel is specifically designed in a rounded off V type of shape. So as solids come across and drop in, they tend to settle down in the center where they're easier to clean out. And because of the shape, because of the pinch shape here, any given of water will have a higher velocity through the channel, and the velocity is what carries the solids down. So in practice, typically the water that was used to get those solids and that waste into the trench drain is enough to carry it all the way down the channel and into the basket, and therefore out of danger. And then lastly is the shape of everything. The outlet box is not a square or rectangle; it's round. The end cap is round, and this is quite a complex piece to make. There's a fair amount of tooling involved, so that has kept anybody from copying that to date. But what that does is it eliminates this inside square corner, and as you know, an inside square corner will have a great deal of stress inherent in it. And so with any additional stress, whether that's a temperature swing or some forklift traffic, it doesn't take long for a crack to start radiating out from there. So by making that round, we eliminate that one stress point, and therefore keep the floor clean, dry, uncracked, which is what you need. So just to show you how efficient the flow is through this, we have a little video. I don't know if the sound will show up or not. It's just, I can hear it. I don't know if everyone else can or not, but it's only music. So
We can see it, but I don't think we can hear it.
okay. So on the right is the Hygienic Pro. On the left is our standard stainless steel channel. We're flowing the same. These are in the same rig at the same time, and they're seeing the same amount of water flowing over the edge. You can see that was enough to clear out the Hygienic Pro. But on the other one, because particles are settled out over the side, we needed to keep increasing, and eventually we needed to flood the whole thing to get this last piece down. And by calculation, we used 3.5 liters versus a lot more. Less than a gallon to almost 25 gallons. So there's a significant savings to people that are buying water from their municipality, treating it, heating it, and then paying the municipality to take it back. The less water they can use, the better. One of our one of our first installations was a brewery in the Cincinnati area, and they did a video for us while they were building that one, talking about why they chose it. And then a few months later, they said, "Oh, we've already paid for those drains," and so we went and did another one. And they explained that they would, in brewing, once you've done the brewing, you've transferred over the wort or the liquid to a fermenter where it will become alcohol, and the rest gets dumped out. It's full of solids called trub, which is the barley and if they added oats or wheat into it for certain types of beers. But all that stuff comes out in like a slurry. And they said in their old brewery that someone would stand there for 15 minutes with a hose on full, motivating the tube to get down the drain and out of the way. And with the new facility where they had these hygienic pro drains, it went down by itself, and all they did at the end was come by with a hose, and if there's anything stuck on the floor, would just hose it down. So when they calculated how many times they did that, how much water they saved, it was significant. Hundreds of thousands of gallons a year. The payback, Watts Legal won't let us use the exact numbers because they don't want it to be perceived as a guarantee. But in that particular application, the savings more than paid for the drains that they put in. But when you factor that they needed to buy drains anyways, and they would have been stainless steel, to buy what they had in their old building would have cost maybe 10% more, or 10% less. I'm sorry, and the savings in 1 month covered that difference. So the second month they were ahead of the game. The third month they were ahead of the game. So putting the right thing in the right place can generate some significant savings. Which brings us to pipe. And pipe and fittings is an area where you can save some time and money and end up with a very, very good drainage system. So we do nothing but 316 here in North America. Is for wastewater and rainwater drainage, black and gray water sanitary discharge systems on ships or in buildings, non-combustible, long life expectancy. We started selling this in 1971. We haven't had a failure. So we don't know how much. We can guess that it's going to last 80 years in a corrosive environment, but it may go longer. Either way, it will likely outlast all of our careers that are on the call today, and quite often the building. It's very quick and easy to install, easy to maintain. You got several jointing options. We have manual electric cutters available to make the cutting down to size easily. So the advantage is it's durable and smooth. It's got a long product life, as I mentioned, very little maintenance required, excellent flow capabilities, fire resistant, heat trace compatible if you have a place with a facility that has fats or something like a French fry processing facility, and you want to keep that stuff warm until it gets into the grease separator. Or if you're traveling outside for any distance, you can heat trace it. Corrosion resistant to most chemicals, very hygienic, very easy to clean, sustainable, lightweight, recyclable, non-toxic, and easy to clean. We use 90% recycled material in the stainless steel. It's the push-fit system makes it easy to install. It looks great. We have installations where it's taking drainage off of a roof, and it's an important part of the design component of the building. if you ever fly internationally out of the Calgary airport, when you're waiting for when you arrive to get dropped off, or you're waiting to be picked up on arrival, the shelters have BLÜCHER pipe running down to several stories to the ground level, and it looks very nice. So with stainless steel pipe, there is a welding option with Schedule 10. Typically, these are used in more in the process side of things, but you could use it for drainage, and or you could use mechanical jointing. With BLÜCHER and other types of stainless lightweight push fit, it is just a push fit system. It doesn't require specialized workers. The fabric, all the fittings are prefabricated with the shape and a smooth inside surface. There's heat expansion in the socket, so there's no risk of thermal cracking. There's no need to design an expansion joint. Every single fitting gets leak tested at the factory before it's shipped out. So all the welds and the Ys and P traps and all that, everything gets tested. All the welds are made with protection gas inside and outside when we weld them at the factory. When you're welding stainless steel on site, you should have, to do it properly, you should have protection gas inside and outside to prevent this this kind of discoloration and this some deposits here of iron oxide coming from the welding stick or the welding device. And then all of our joints get pickled and passivated in a pickling bath. And again, that's something that would need to be done if you're on-site welding. You can use a paste. It's easy to reach the weld on the outside, but it's almost impossible to get to the inside to put that pickling paste on. So the weld becomes a future failure point when it's welded on site. And then, of course, you could do mechanical jointing like with a cast iron system, but that's extremely time consuming and expensive. So now, we've had a difficult time explaining to contractors that there's a savings to be had because of how easy it is to install. And the Mechanical Contractors Association has an estimating guide, but they consider lightweight stainless steel push fit to take as long as doing a cast iron mechanical joint installation, and had no interest in really discussing that with us. So we hired RSMeans, which is an independent company that does time and motion studies, again, for helping people to understand what's involved in the installation of various products. So we hired them. We provided a location in a Watts facility in New England. We ordered the exact same pieces in cast iron and PVC, and we had the same two installers, 20 years experience, install all three systems. We used the same hangers that for all three products, but both PVC and cast iron actually require two or three times more hangers than BLÜCHER does. So this is a video that's done of the time and motion study, and I guess if you can't hear it, I'll kind of explain what's going on. So some upbeat music.
With any estimate, you've got a material portion and you've got a labor factor. Material costs are all empirical.
Talking about the cost of materials versus the cost of labor.
So we actually do get the audio here.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
What we want to do is prove an accurate total installed cost comparison.
RSMeans data is essentially benchmark data. We put in over 22,000 hours of research every year, publish over 85,000 unit cost lines. So Watts Water hired RSMeans specifically to conduct a time and motion study comparing the installation broken down by CAS of three different types of drainage pipes. PVC, cast iron, and the BLÜCHER stainless steel. So that's where we come in, where we need to make sure that everything is the same for each product installation. It's non-negotiable. We need the same exact installation crew, the same exact layout, the most up-to-date manufacturer's installation instructions, and we direct the crew to base their installation on those manufacturer's instructions, and then we let the data speak for itself. That's what's most important to us.
This type of install was really nice. We were able to look at our blueprint and cut the entire job, lay it on the floor, label it, and rock and roll. Each product is exactly the same thing.
I've worked in this industry for 25 years.
My background is about 22 years of plumbing.
Well, the challenges in general for PVC is trying to keep your work area clean, dealing with the smells of the glue and the primer, even with the low VOC. Customers complain all the time. It's annoying having to install hangers every 4 feet on PVC, for sure.
I'm more comfortable with PVC for an install than any other material.
So there's a lot of data that's taken, and what we do is we take it back to our office, we review it together, and what we try and do is compile the data into a spreadsheet where it has the task and then the amount of time associated with that task based on the works in. And that's really the driver of the report.
So after the PVC system, we transferred over to the cast iron system, and working with cast iron was a pleasure carrying it all. A lot of times we'll come across a piece of pipe where you snap it and it cracks and breaks, and you snap through an entire piece of pipe before you get a piece that you need.
You have to deal with the no-hub clamp, rubbers. You can get sand holes in the fittings.
Cast iron was definitely the longest out of all 3 products.
We had about half an hour before they started the time study this morning, and we showed them how to use the cutting tool, and we showed them how much lubricant to
Don't do that,
apply,
Robert.
how to apply the lubricant, how it pushes together, and that was literally it.
In my 22 years of experience of different piping materials, I've never tried BLÜCHER as of yet. And coming onto this job, I was wondering what it was going to be like.
After the tutorial, it looked really straightforward. It was really lightweight. I did like.
It was very user-friendly in the fact that we could have one guy starting on a main trunk and the other guy starting on branches.
There was no gluing, no priming, no tightening clamps, no worrying about the torque of the clamps. Really, it's just a push fit.
Combination of all these different factors on the installation and the speed of that installation and the efficiency, put all that together, and we're really hoping that the time study is going to show how fast a competent contractor can really install the product. If you just look at material cost, you get a very false sense of what you're getting for your money and value. All the value is in your labor savings. And that doesn't include lifetime cost of ownership benefits.
The learning experience for the BLÜCHER pipe was really nil. I don't think I even really needed the tutorial.
The BLÜCHER was just astounding on time, and it was just a lot cleaner installation. It was user-friendly, very light, very easy to handle. If I'm going on a job and I know I'm going to install BLÜCHER, I know I'm going home early.
Yeah, so 4 hours, just under 4 hours to install the same system that took over 10 hours in PVC and over 13 hours in no, we move on from there, in cast iron. And so when you factor in the labor rate of a couple of plumbers, the cost of the end user for the drainage systems is probably fairly close to even Yes, the other products are less expensive on a line item, but if they take longer to install, to turn it into something that your client's going to use, it makes more sense to buy the one that gives them the most value. And stainless steel will certainly be the longest lasting and easiest to clean. So some of the feedback from the crew, because it was much lighter, it made it a lot easier to carry things around the site. They could go up with a 10-foot piece of pipe and with just one guy and install that while someone else is doing another job. So, the fact that it wasn't brittle, didn't break apart, they thought it would be much easier to replace or rework. If you had a vertical section of pipe in all three materials and a forklift backed into it, the PVC and the cast iron would crack and break apart and become a critical fix. If you back into the thin wall stainless steel, it's definitely going to dent, but it's still going to be sealed. It's not a case of, okay, we have to stop everything we're doing to get it replaced. It's a case of, okay, this needs to be fixed, and we can do it when it's convenient. We can continue to produce what we produce. So, being much lighter made it easier. They could string together several fittings in a row and on a table or a bench, and then put them up into place and put them around. So one of the things that you need to install the BLÜCHER pipe is a little bit of lubricant, and it's an alcohol-based lubricant that evaporates over a short period of time. If it's dry, if it's humid, it might be 20-30 minutes or so for it to evaporate. But what that allows you to do is to install fittings onto a pipe, position it, and then twist them into the right spot before the lubrication evaporates and then sets the connection. With PVC, where you're gluing, once it's glued and you've held it in place, that's where it is. You don't have that option to twist it into position for you. So makes it for a much easier installation. So if we look at the labor costs of cast iron and PVC versus the labor costs for the thin wall pipe, drained stainless steel pipe, 71% savings in labor versus the cast iron, 62% versus the PVC. So in a lot of cases that will cover the difference in the price of material. So it's a win-win for everybody. We're coming to the end. We're looking at a CCMC certification for burial of this pipe in the ground in Canada. We should have that shortly. Currently, the building code does not have a recognition of it, other than to say that the purpose of the building code is to protect the building, protect the environment, and protect the people, and to use the best solution for that. So the CCMC certification will cover that. We have a few things that you can find online. We have a YouTube channel, BLÜCHER North America. We have a number of different videos. This one explains how the Hygienic Pro features save you time and money. This one talks about why hygiene matters. This is the testimonial on that brewery, and there are some other pieces in there too. So, and of course, Watts has a broad product portfolio to help you with safety and regulation, energy efficiency, water conservation, and other drainage products such as Orion for for laboratory use or some other chemical type of use, we can help you with that as well. ATS, I think, has all the specs on that. There's a couple of different jointing methods there. There's the mechanical joint, there's socket fusion, and then one specific to Orion, which is Orion fuse. We will lend the contractor the equipment, and you attach electrodes, and it heats up the wires inside, which allows it to melt and fuse together. And then the machine will actually keep track of every joint that you do, so you have a report to say that yes, the procedure was followed. And then as an added bonus, if you're not familiar with it, at training.watts.com, there are hundreds of short training videos on various products. They're not sales presentations. They are specific training. So it's, if it's how does a backflow work, how does an ACV work, and you get some points for every course that you complete, and you can trade those points in for some cool stuff. So I'm surprised at this beer tasting flight. It seems to sell out quite often, but I have the chair. The chair is extremely high quality, very good quality chair. The clothing is typically Columbia, so there are some things worth having, and you get to learn a little bit while you're doing it. Again, like 5-10 minutes. Do it while you're having your sandwich at your desk, etc. So, and then that ends it for me. I went a little bit over. I appreciate you staying, and I say I get a little excited about this stuff, so I sometimes forget that
Understandably.
what time it is.
Exciting
I
stuff.
can't believe it's been 60 minutes.
Hey, what we just learned is that 15 minutes could have been you can install a cast or a stainless steel pipe through almost an entire building.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So we are doing a bit of like a pipe month here. We're covering a bunch of different types of materials, the applications that they're best for.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to kind of, I guess, make sure I understand in my summary. Beyond the time savings, which makes stainless steel pipe a great choice for a wide variety of applications, really, when we're looking where it works best, it's the specialty applications where high temp, but beyond just high temp fluctuation, where you're going to have a spike and then a cooling. So the brewery is a great application where you're dumping out that really high temperature port, and then you're washing it down with cold water. That fluctuation, that contrast is really where other materials may have challenges, and that's where the stainless steel really ties in.
Yeah.
Same
anything
with
hygienic.
drainage, right?
Yeah, and anything hygienic. So we've done a number of hospitals recently, and hospitals are an interesting application because there are things called HAIs, or hospital-acquired infections. So the senior citizen falls, breaks their hip, they go to the hospital, they're in there, they're getting a hip replacement, so they're in there for several days, and then they contract C. difficile or Legionella or some other thing that's transferred through the mechanical systems in the hospital, and then that's what kills them. They went for a broken bone and they didn't come out. The cost to healthcare and the number in the U.S. is astronomical.
Huge.
To the point where they know that it happens. They know that microbes are opportunistic, and they want to multiply and regenerate, and so all those things are all the rooms are connected through drainage pipe, and so somebody who's treating a patient that's sick at one end of the hallway, is washing their hands every time they come in, and then they go into the at the other end of the hallway, they're washing their hands in that washroom. It gets into their piping system, into the P trap, and it just starts to expand and move its way further down. So I understand that
That's
ASPE
actually
is
a
in,
great point. So
yeah.
that leads
I,
me to our learning up here and the webinar recordings where we covered healthcare acquired infections, and we had a
mhm,
healthcare month just like we did this pipe month a couple months back.
yeah.
We covered all the different ways that you can control Legionella, that you can use
Mhm,
high temp flushes, and I think we covered silver ionization. We
yeah.
cover hand hygiene sinks and minimizing splashback. So if you
Hmm.
want to find this pipe, this recording on the stainless steel pipe and drainage, or that
Yeah.
recording on the healthcare applications, you can go to atspec.com, the learning hub, and the webinar recording. That's where the video that we're going to post from today is going to be shown. And then, all of our past presentations are included here as well. So if they want to go and find that engineer infection prevention presentation, it's included in the previous presentation as well. And then if you
That's,
want to learn more about, finding and selecting the product that we covered today, we mentioned in the beginning, this is the ATS spec tool. It's a product configuration, a product selection tool. It's free for the designers, the engineers, the contractors. Simply log in and your account will be hosted under your company's account. It's paid for by our lovely manufacturers like Watts, like BLÜCHER, among 40, I think almost 50 different manufacturers these days. Once you're logged in, you can store your repository of your firm's masters, which we help keep up to date because the manufacturers are giving us the most up-to-date product information. So if BLÜCHER changes the model number from a BFD 110 to a BFD 110-MB for the mic, model number change, whatever we do, we're going to help keep your master up to date with that. And that's true for your pipe, that's true for your drains, that's true for your backflow, right down to your fixtures, accessories, water heaters, everything. Then you can take that master and put it into projects and quick specs. A project is, as it sounds, one of your specific projects that you're working on has a location, has an application, like you might be working on one of those schools in Alberta that Mike mentioned. And if you have a master for that, Calgary School Board with this BLÜCHER drainage and piping in there, you can just drag and drop it into that project, and we keep that project up to date up until the date that you provide us. So if you tell us it's, October 10th, we're going to keep it up to date until October 10th. And that's true for, we're going to also apply our barrier-free rule engine based on the various locations. And we're going to apply our building application rule engine as well. So a healthcare application might have specific healthcare products recommended. A residential application will have different flow rates that are approved, especially if you're in Canada dealing with the upcoming change we have to the flow rates in July, which that's a whole other conversation that we'll cover when we get there. The other point I want to show is just how easy it is to create a quick spec. You can see I've got our quick spec here. That's the last type of project folder. So we have those different levels of product folders, like I mentioned. We have your master, which is your comprehensive product folder. It's used for all your different applications. You have your project folder where it's going to be used for a specific project. And then you have your quick spec where it's your one-offs. There's no location information. There's no application. There's no date. So this is really just your ungated, unruled product selection, but it's the fastest way to go about it. And once you're in there, you can simply, I'm going to go back to this BLÜCHER pipe webinar that I've created. There's no products in here. We can use our masters. You would have your firm's masters here on the left. And then we have the ATS templates, which is like our ATS template masters, where you can grab and simply drag and drop. So if we want stainless steel pipe, maybe we need to identify it. We need the hanger supports and restraints. And then we simply drag and drop it into our project, into our application. We could also go and search for, say, the industrial template if we want to grab any of the drainage, or we can search for the drainage and mechanical equipment master, which is ATS's application drainage master. We might want to round out the selection with, some valves and regulators. Do we need a backflow for 2 inches to add in? Do we need, you know, a PRV or anything like that? Or if we need, you know, we've gotten everything we can from the masters, now we need to round out the selection with a trench drain, that Hygienic Pro. We can use the old category method as well, where we just hit add product. You can see we've got our trench drain pinned at the top, but if it wasn't, you could search for the trench drain category. And then this is how you configure your individual selection. So if this was for a shower area, we have that BLÜCHER waterline channel with the membrane clamp. This is great for your shower areas. But if this is our pharma or our brewery, then we need that BLÜCHER Hygienic Pro. We can configure the exact length, or we can select the most popular option, and it's going to update the model number, update our list price every time we make a selection. And I'll show you that again. Let's do a point drain as our next selection. We'll hit add product. We can search again for our floor drains. We can use our filters on the left to filter by application or load rating or manufacturer. Then we've got, you know, all these different brands. Let's do the elastomeric flange we were talking about, how this might have different flooring types in different areas. Let's select our Hygienic Pro grate. We'll do a 3-inch pipe size. Let's make sure it's 3/16, include the trap primer tapping. And again, every time we're making a selection, we're updating our model name and number. Hit add product. And then just like that, in a matter of minutes, we've configured the 2 products that we need for our unique application. And we've taken from our master or from our template to quickly and easily round out the rest of our selection. And then you just check off the boxes. And I need to move our faces here because the download spec button down here in the bottom was hidden by my face. I'm going to download the spec, and you could download all. You could choose the ones that you want: CSI, 3-part spec format, Revit, manufacturer spec, 2 different types of long or short spec, a schedule in Excel, product brochures, and even what we call submittals, where you see the configured selections. I always assume that I'm going to run a little bit late. Believe it or not, Mike, you're not the only one that runs a little long.
I'm glad to hear that.
So I pre-download all of these ahead of time. This is our manufacturer spec sheet format. Shows exactly what you selected, gives you all the pipe information you could possibly need, all the installation details that you may want, your flow charts for your backflow, and then our submittal format, where again, the difference of our submittal format is we are selecting the boxes showing exactly the options we've selected. And then if we jump over to Excel, you know, pretty standard schedule. We can jump into our Word spec. Everything's open and editable, so you can just copy and paste this and put it directly into your book spec or however it is that you are issuing your project to market. But again, you're getting the configured solution every single time. You get a nice zip folder with everything that you need. And then if you need to make revisions, add, delete, you can go back into it and make the changes you need. So that's a really quick overview of the ATS spec tool. If you haven't set up your masters, highly recommend you do so. If you need a new pipe master, as we're covering this month and pipe month, we've got tons of different materials. All of them have a unique application where they work best. So if you're working on pharma, if you're working on hygienic areas, if you need that high temp swing product like a stainless steel, then this is a great option. Easy to select on the spec tool, but if you want our help, we're here to do so. So feel free to reach out to myself. We'll get you organized. And if you have any questions on the specific product, respond to our certificate of attendance that we'll send out tomorrow, and we'll get you in touch with Michael should you have any questions or need help on an upcoming project. With that all being said, thank you for your time today, Mike. Always appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
You always give such great information as we go.
Thank you.
Anytime we can have you on, it's always great.
Yeah. Glad to be on. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.